LGD can take this. This would move LGD to equal game score on, series score with Ninjas and Pajamas. They both be sitting at 2-5. It really starts to look dire. And yes, you still have another 9 series to go, but you got to think of the teams above you. But we're jumping in onto the game. Picks and bans. We're going to swap over the sides. So it's NIP on blue, LGD on the red. The Maokai, the Zeri, the Rise, and the Elise all being banned away again. No one is getting their hands on these, what have been kind of deemed as the OPs of this particular patch.
And I like that the teams are even just swapping up bans. Usually there'll be picks that the teams just don't like to play, like regardless of the side, but still blue banning out Rise, Elise, Zeri, Maokai on red. Seems like these teams having very similar ideals of what they don't want to give over in terms of like what can be drafted on each rotation. The one adaptation is NIP not wanting to have to deal with that Kassadin once again. So the response from LGD, you could take away the Nami if you care about that Lucian Nami. Ashe is always the one that jumps out to me when it's open, just because it is such an annoying champion to have to play against. Like, not only the wave clear, but the amount of engage options with how low the cooldown will be later on in Enchanted Crystal Arrow. But no, they are going to leave that one open. So, I mean, NIP, you got to lock this in.
Yeah, you got to go for this. You can't let that one go through. The Ashe going to be locked in here. LGD saying, cool. We'll take LPC back on that Varus. Very happy with the way that game went for him. In fairness, he was doing exactly what he needed to do. And Meteor on the Sejuani, going back towards this very safe engage pick. And we saw it was a bit of a meme in terms of his build for the first few minutes. But guess what, Lyric? The first few minutes didn't matter, because by the time we ended the game, he was probably already 6 items.
Yeah. Pretty much everyone was full build by the time by the time game 1 ended. Wukong seems like it's Xiaolong Bao's preference over the Sejuani anyway coming into this week, which is kind of strange because he hadn't even played Wukong coming into this week. At least this split was Maokai, Sejuani, Vi, center jungler, and now for Pout. I mean, I wonder if you just end up going for mid here once again, get your hands on the Azir. At least this time around, you wouldn't have to worry about the Kassadin. And we saw that he was one of the people being able to dictate a lot, would leave it so your AD carry pool would get pinched, which is what looks like was on NIP's mind, as they do end up just locking in the Jhin.
Lock in the Jhin again. Photic trying to see if he can make that lethality into crit build work one more time. And again, you know, LPC and Jin Zhao just kind of saying, look, we'll take the priority we've got. It is a little bit harder for them to kind of maintain that priority, I would imagine, just because you have got the Ashe. I would expect us to see a little bit of level 1 shenanigans, as we see both, generally when we have a Heimerdinger and the Ashe in the same game, they both want to get control of that very far brush depending on what side they're on. So both teams are going to be trying to gain control over that, you would imagine, the first few seconds of the game. But now, with bot lanes and junglers locked in, we are going to see LGD swapping up the picks just a little bit, saying, look, we're going to get rid of that Azir. It was an issue. It was something that we might not have been able to deal with had we not had the Kassadin, and the Kassadin's already banned.
I also liked that they take it away when you think about, like, sure, it could have been an option for them themselves, but you already have the Sejuani, so you always, I think, want to keep the possibility of those melees in mid lane there, right? The Sylas, the Akali. You hit on the Renekton Flex in game 1 draft, which I believe is something that Haichao has even played once this split. So taking away some of those options does leave that available. So now they could go for something like a Sylas or an Akali if they wanted, or you could look for what still is, in my mind, just the go-to option in top lane. So getting their hands on the K'Sante, going to give them a lot of room to work with in regards to engage options. Also just going to let Xiaoshu be a bit of a brick wall up there in top side that will be hard for NIP to exploit.
Yeah, and look, you know, K'Sante, he does it all. Engages, 1v1s, builds full tank, has crap tons of damage. He is a bit of an issue at the moment on 13.1, but with that being locked in, it does mean that Ninjas Pajamas are kind of saying, look, we respect the fact that the Sylas can go over to you, and we think that we can utilize it ourselves. So getting themselves options like the K'Sante Ultimate, of course, the Sejuani and the Chain of Corruption, you know, are definitely options as well. And like you mentioned earlier, comboing in with that Sejuani, the Akali locked and loaded here for Haichao. So roughly the same kind of draft we've seen there from LGD, not as much late game scaling as such, but they are still going for that same kind of style of utilizing that bot lane pressure to gain advantages in the early stages. Whereas NIP, I mean, with the Wukong, again, they're looking to try and put pressure on Meteor. They're looking to try and make sure that they can kind of move around. This time around, though, with the Ashe, if they can get that going, the power you get with that unnerfed Umbral Glaive can just give you so much control around this map.
Yeah, and NIP definitely being the ones to change it up, right? In game 1, very much having, as we saw, it's kind of like disengage, kite them back with your range, and then look for the re-engage. This time around, they have tools to find all-ins themselves. More follow-up with the Wukong, with the Sylas being there. And Gangplank, you always have the Cannon Barrage to layer on top of that engage when they're going in, but also does incredibly well when the enemy composition is coming into you. Just an easy time setting those barrels up, something like an Akali, Wukong, whatever jumps in, and you can just land those perfect barrel chains. Sheen, I haven't been a huge follower of the other regions. You know, we have games of LPL every day, so it's like you gotta divide your time wisely. But I have seen the clips of, I believe it was Finn on this Gangplank. I know it's doable.
Yes.
I know it's possible.
You got to get a 2 items and immediately into double crit cloak just to see if you can get that 100% crit. Boom goes the Dynamite. It's interesting how Europe, has been moving towards the Gangplank clips, considering how they've historically fared against the Gangplank when it comes to the LPL and whatnot internationally. But that's neither here nor there. It's got to antagonize someone at some point. But Lyric, we're jumping in, and exactly what I thought would happen here. NIP looking to try and overload this bot side, make sure this Heimerdinger does not get his early start. And you can see already they are just kind of making sure no more than one turret goes down, and even then that turret's not going to do a lot after that.
Nope. Just like you said, taking that
Smited
one away. Yeah. Using that one outright to move things along. And for NIP, I mean, they at least have a bot lane that can contest this time around, right? In game 1, they had the Yuumi. That's something you knew was going to concede pressure early on. Having the Ashe, having the Halo Blades there, they're going to be able to contest and try and match out. So at least this time, having a bot lane that could potentially neutralize, can go even. You have a mid lane matchup that's going to be ultimately a wash as well. And a lot of it this time should actually just come down to those skirmishes. And NIP hopefully will be going into the mid game on more even footing. And mid game was where we saw them be stronger than LGD in game 1.
Absolutely, it was. LGD kind of mitigating a lot of what NIP were trying to do in the early stages, but then NIP came back much stronger. But as the late game fights came on, LGD got a lot more confidence in themselves and made themselves a little bit more known, as we will see Photic trying to put down some hurt alongside Dro on this bot side. The Ashe is just so powerful in all senses of the word. She really does. Even level 1, the volley does damage. The passive on the auto attack slowing you down means you're able to chase someone forward. So if you go a little bit too far forward, you are going to be a lot of hurt, as we can see. Photic, you need your support there, my mate. You need to make sure you're walking up as a team. It's a buddy system. You got to make sure that works for you.
Still going to be able to zone them out from the wave. But you're right, LGD taking at least a more advantageous trade early on. And looking at junglers and how this impacts that, right? We saw a ward did go down onto Xiaolongbao's blue buff. They had an inkling he was going to start towards that bot side anyway because of how long he spent around bot in that level 1 to just guarantee that LGD don't get the sign up. But now confirming for sure that he should be doing his full bot quadrant with the fact that ward just timed out. So at least LGD do have some information to play with. And we can see once again their soul lanes being the ones with Prio so far.
Perfect angle there. If you're ever wondering why they go for that specific angle, they bring it all the way from top to bottom. It hits every single camp. So you are guaranteed at all points to be able to figure out where the jungler is. It's quite annoying for any kind of jungle mains out there. And LGD recognize, look, that's just part of the game. We let this Ashe go through. We let it go first pick. We have to just let that one happen. But XLB shows himself towards that mid lane, clears out a ward nice and early, and does push himself now towards his top side. Not going to be able to go for any ganks just yet. And Invincible being pushed back quite a bit here. Needs to be a little bit careful. That knockback is a hell of a lot more of a distance than you actually realize it is. But at the moment, just doing what all Gangplanks do best and surviving until he gets that nice little bit of gold in his back pocket. But Xiaoshu needs to be aware that there is a Wukong in the vicinity, but XLB not really going to be able to make something work from this. Not without any hard CC.
No, and once again, I mean, just the Prio coming out to set up for the plays around topside to make sure that LGD are the ones who get the Scuttle Crab and then back off just fine. At least this time around, we don't have like cheeky wraparounds into like the early ganks that Xiaolongbao is having to try to manipulate and try to work around. So again, a lot of different factors that at least make this early game not as in favor of LGD like it was back in game 1.
I like this little stat we get as well. We're getting this a lot, which I'm loving to see from our production, either side of the language barrier. But 7 wins across the board, so 14 games. You've been seeing Heimerdinger versus Ash 7 apiece. Is a very curious one there. So no real definitive answer of which one would be quote unquote stronger. And speaking of being stronger, Xiaoshu will need the strength. He doesn't have flash. He has ghost. He's going to lose his knock-up now in 2 seconds. Here we go. Invincible moving forward. Yeah, you can see Xiaoshu recognizing, look, there's got to be something up here. There has to be someone around. Otherwise, he wouldn't be playing this aggressive with this low mana and this low health.
Low HP, low mana. Like, Cassante
Yeah.
wins in the 1v1 matchup because how easy it is to stack those Qs up against Gangplank anyway, like we're seeing here. So, good read by him. Going to be able to maintain control. But Meteor going for the gank.
He is going for the gank. He is going to be able to get... Oh, it kind of swaps his priority in terms of the damage.
They
but
got
one more
it.
auto attack. They got him down. Photic taking a lot of work as well. No piercing arrow to come out. And that's a 1-0 start. First blood to LGD. Really nicely done by Meteor.
Great gank coming out from the LGD bot lane. They get bolt sums from Joel. They get the kill. Wave goes in, so they're going to be denying Photic some gold and experience as well. I will still give kudos to Photic, though, having the discipline to hold on to that flash. Not getting scared by the potential damage that could have been there. It's going to be here, straight into the Scuttle Crab. They have a ward, not expecting the terrain that Meteor is able to traverse to make sure that this gank goes through. Trying to use the heal to buy some distance, but then Meteor still guaranteeing the CC, comboed with the grenade. Beautiful chain for LGD to pick up first blood.
Done. Yeah, really, really well played. And honestly, it was funny because it looked like NLP just had like a little bit of a spidey sense to switch because they had no vision of where the Sejuani was. They went, wait a minute, we're super far pushed up. And all of a sudden, oh God, they started to run away without any real vision or knowledge of where Meteor is. But it was too little, too late. And getting those 2 sums off. This is what we're seeing as well with the Ashe. The Ashe is one of those weird picks where, yes, it is exceptionally powerful. If it can get up to the Imperial Mandate and the Umbral Glaive, you have got so little that you can actually do to go against it. But if it falls behind, if it doesn't actually get up to those items and become a bit of a nuisance in that mid game, it does end up being very squishy, very easy to kill off, and honestly, a bit of a liability for your team. You kind of just become a stun bot a little bit, and honestly, a traveling ward as well. So now Meteor looking to see if he can maybe make something work in this bot side. He knows this Ashe does not have any summoners, but they know he just cleared it off a ward, so the NIP bot lane acting very, very defensive, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I'm going to know exactly what he's doing just now. Meteor not going to want to go for this being spotted out. Xiaolongbao heading towards this bottom side. Pings actually coming out around the mid lane. Might get a bit of a tussle.
A little bit of a tussle, but it's all just hands at the moment. It's just showing off bravado, beefing up your chest, kind of like, you want to go, bro? You want to go? Well, who wants to go is actually in the top side. Invincible force to flash as the all-out was used. Xiaoshu just putting in so much work. And again, he does it all. He builds full tank and he does damage.
In Gangplank's one of those champions that, of course, like scales and does damage, but actually does have a lot of like favorable matchups into many champions, so kind of does both. But Cassante, not one of them. Is Meteor has just been putting up so much pressure in this early game so far. And it's looking a little bit like game 1 where, sure, you at least have the tools to neutralize things like bot lane matchup, but still not necessarily there in terms of being able to set up plays for Xiaolongbao. He hasn't been able to find anything just yet. Once ultis come online, things like the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, though, I mean, you'll have a plethora of options all across the map.
A plethora of options, and again, we're seeing LGD kind of come out to a little bit of an early lead using the priority they have in bot side to move themselves fairly well around the map. But honestly, what I love about this particular jungle path coming out from LGD is that, from Meteor obviously, is that he's keeping himself away from XLB. He's not allowing XLB to kind of bully him away like we would normally see a Wukong in the early stages. And by putting himself on opposite sides of the map, as the curtain call comes out, it is going to be LPC forced to flash away. Does dodge out from the third and the fourth shot as well. So I was going to say that I was just praising them, but again, losing very little. Yes, you lose a flash in the bot side, but you're gaining the Rift Herald, and with that means that you have got so much more priority to be able to kind of move around the map and get yourself advantages that you might not have been able to get before.
Yeah, we're going to need to see those advantages come to fruition. Meteor now, though, is going to head down to this bot side. So it looks like LGD realizing that they have prio to go for the Drake, especially since resets did just come on through. Even Haichao making his way back to lane now. Be able to catch this wave. And yeah, no response. Going to be able to come out for NIP. I feel like you're going to have to start looking for vision somewhere. And Channel Crystal Arrow.
That is... Oh, he could have finished his recall there. Invincible actually walks himself away. It was a little nice little bit of movement, or not lack of movement, that proved the thing there from Xiaoshu. He actually might look for a full engage here. He's got Ghost. He's got the all-out as well. He's looking to try and get behind him. There goes the ultimate here from Invincible. You can see them looking to try and make this one work. He gets the 1v1, but XLB is there to turn it all around. It's a 1-for-1 trade as NIP finally get themselves on the board.
Xiaoshu manages to get it, but I'm surprised wasn't able to read that Schellingbao would at least be in the vicinity, considering the Enchanted Crystal Arrow only came out like 15 seconds ago. And I mean, there's no way Invincible would look for that all in just by himself. Still, 1-for-1. I think as NIP, like, you're going to take those when Invincible has been struggling so heavily in this 1v1. But it's left Meteor still to just control vision around this bot side, allow Jin Zhao to get down a lot of these deep wards, and continue for Jin Zhao and LPC to try and lay down this punishment.
Continually putting it in. Haven't gotten the plate just yet, as both the AD carries working on their tiers, and of course their Youmuu's Ghost Blades, you would imagine, as a first item. And there was an interesting one as well. We always see a lot of pro players talking about this, is that the Youmuu's Ghost Blade, it's like, look, having that extra bit of movement speed, getting, you know, to kind of maybe even delay your boots if you really want to, the extra little bit of movement is just good enough for me to be able to, you know, change the position, change where I'm looking to try and go for it, and add that little bit of outplay ability. So that's why we generally see a little bit more priority on the active there, as Haichao is just doing what he does best at the moment in this laning phase. He's just been kind of putting in work onto this Silas, putting in work onto Pout, to be perfectly honest, and really making a nuisance of himself. We will see now 2 plates go over to Xiaoshu in that top side. And he just backs himself away as well. So far, so good for LGD. They have got themselves a 1,000 gold lead, just a little bit above it. Got a Dragon to the good as well. Even a Rift Herald there to be used whenever they see fit. And with 3 minutes to the next Dragon until it spawns, we should maybe see that Rift Herald used just before that, because they want to try and get those juicy, juicy plates.
Meteor maybe going to look to even use it in the mid lane. Yeah, just drops it outright and going to head down towards spot. So drop Herald in mid, just double down on the pressure that Haichao already has and start to lean towards bot lane. You can see on the minimap, though, Photic and Joie are giving a lot of respect to this play. They're going to clear out vision, but with Schellingbao here, you shouldn't expect really anything more to pan out from this. Oh, maybe not.
A lot of work. Yeah, they're going to go fully commit there. That's a hell of a lot of damage on the Jin Zhao. Flash in, the second part of the Cyclone, but a flash out. Cleanse used as the Chain of Corruption moves forward. They need to get the last auto attacker. Thought they were going to leave him there to not die. As now Zhuo tries to flash away, but it's a Kali. She's going to have the second R now in a couple of seconds. Jin Zhao is in a lot of trouble. They need to block that final shot. They're looking for it, and they still find him. Pout gets him in on top of himself. That's the Heimerdinger going down now. Trying to see if he can get another kill here. You got the Akali coming out, trying to make this one work, but without a Sejuani, I think Haichao has just signed his death sentence. Triple kill coming in for Pout, and this is why NIP brought him into the lineup.
Pout just taking advantage of all the chaos in that bot lane with this teleport. Things were looking so good for LGD at the start of that skirmish, but at the end of the day, Photic, Machine, maybe we're not done. Maybe we're not done.
We might not be done just yet. Photic does have that 4th shot, though, so he will chunk the ever-living Christ out of that Varus. But let's have a look at this fight here again, because they commit everything onto Meteor, but it's Jin Zhao who's, again, still the Swixty Heimerdinger.
NIP, they just see how far LPC is because he was showing on the wave, and they think they have the damage here. But you saw Photic actually wasn't able to get too many autos off in that exchange. Allows for the kill onto Meteor to come through. Photic's even forced to flash out. And then Haichao running down Joie in the meantime. This feels like it has to be the call of where LGD's members have to be like, okay, guys, we got 1 for 2. We need to get the hell out for dodge. Jin Zhao is going to go down because they can see the TP coming through. And then trying to buy time for Haichao to make his way back into the fight. But Pout coming in full HP having all of his abilities available, manages to clean it up 3-0-0 now in the Silas. Rod of Ages in pocket.
Yeah, that is huge. You're probably looking at that last fight and going, my God, why did the Silas have so much burst? Remember, when he steals the Chain of Corruption, he gets the Blighted Quivers, which gives you the active of when you hit someone with an ability, it does the true damage. So it's just such a powerful ultimate to be able to give to. Now we got to go for another fight as XLB. He's been caught out and he's been killed 6 seconds before Dragon. And now Pout's going forward. I don't know if he wanted to do that. He's going to have to try and use the Akali ultimate to get himself out and alive. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Just about survives, but that's just before Dragon. LGD should be able to stabilize themselves and get themselves up at the 2.
LGD, they're going to be able to look for this. It doesn't even matter that Invincible having Cannon Barrage on the top side with no jungle available, with Pout being so low, will just be an objective secured for LGD. LPC's keeping up push in the bot lane, so LGD just feeling very comfortable. Feels like this is the scenario where Xiaolongbao, you can see now headed up towards top side. Try and make your way there, maybe get some vision down, and see if you can just prevent a pivot into Rift Herald for LGD. We're going to jump straight into the replay. The patience coming on through, playing off that vision that they just had. They forced out the clone very early, and just, I mean, great chain, right? You see the Shuriken flip come through, able to match it up with the Glacial Prison from Meteor, and, I mean, Xiaolongbao is just gone.
I mean, Xiaolongbao has just not been really able to take a step towards Meteor in this game. It feels like Meteor has been just the better jungler of the two, and the 4 objectives that he's just about to secure himself right now will confirm that. You got to imagine TP going to be coming in. That's going to be Invincible on that bot side, but that means you've left the top lane to get a little bit more damage done to it as well, as Xiaoshu has pretty much taken that on his own. He has not seen the Sejuani at all this game, but has gotten himself the tower, got himself a solo kill, and has been doing absolute work here on this Cassante. Rift Herald secured as well. You've got Invincible on that bot side, but they can be answered pretty damn quickly. You can see there, Haichao is moving down, going to be able to soak up that wave, you'd imagine. And this is all LGD, but similar to game number 1, LGD took the early lead. It was NIP who brought it back. As Haichao, he might find himself looking, he's a level down, but he's looking for a full-on engage. Doesn't land the Shuriken flip, so doesn't want to try and force it too hard.
Good call in the end. Xiaolongbao was hovering down, so that could have even just gone awry very quickly. But both teams looking to stabilize the map right now is...
Wait, oh,
okay. I mean, they canceled his recall, so look at the mini-map. Pout is pushing in top lane. That is going to delay the answer being up there. Haichao doesn't even have TP, though I don't think you'd want to commit TP just to catching that wave, but still, it's going to leave a few CS, maybe even the whole wave, just going down up and top unanswered. So, you know, not the biggest trade-off for an Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but for an ability that, like I said, is on a relatively low cooldown, you're not going to end up using that in the next, 30, 40 seconds regardless. So, still finding value.
Still finding a lot of value. Come back in and see where Ninja Pajamas can get themselves. Again, you look at the Silas. That's where your money is. You've got the stopwatch, and that indicates to me very early on that Pout knows that the next big game fight could be key. The next fight, which is probably in 2.5 minutes when that third dragon spawns, is going to be pivotal for this team to try and just bring themselves back into this game. And Invincible moving up towards what I imagine is the Immortal Shield Bow to try and keep himself some survivability, but he really just can't do a lot right now against Xiaoshu. See now Meteor popping down this Rift Herald. They're going to be able to crack open this bot lane, and this is just more pressure, more priority given over to LGD as they look to try and just give this Ocean Soul, another Ocean Soul, mind you, their win condition in this game.
I mean, they're going to have so many to play with. That's one thing I've really liked. We talked about it in game 1, but even game 2, just having a draft that gives you options in terms of how you're able to play out. Is Xiaoshu now maybe regretting his decisions?
Yeah, might be regretting it just a little bit. Doesn't quite go down and ends up using the Ghost to make sure he secures his exit. But Shelly got to do her favorite thing twice and bash her head into 2 turrets. One dead, one only about a third of its HP left. Meteor. Oh, Cassante does get hit by the back end of that and will be stunned for a hell of a long time. Hasn't got himself Merc Treads just yet. The All-Out comes out to get him away. Flash is used. And it is going to be a 2v1 kill going over to Invincible. Does get a little bit of revenge for that kill earlier.
Isn't it ridiculous that even with that health lead, Cannon Barrage, or Channel Crystal Arrow, that it looked like Xiaoshu would have potentially won that if it was just an outright 1v1.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
I mean, look, I'm not here to decide what is good, what is bad. I'm just here to cast it, as we do see Pout using that Akali ultimate to see if he can maybe get into position to make something happen. Gonna have the R2 now in a second. Meteor moving forward now to see if he can catch out Invincible, but XLB realizes maybe we've stayed a little bit too long. A TP is going to be used. They don't care about you right now, Gangplank. Never mind, they do. They just took too long to figure it out. The TP was used, and they are able to get Invincible out. Immortal Shield Bow finished up. And Dragon spawning in 27 seconds, but no TP, and no Cannon Barrage for the moment, so LGD still very much on the front foot.
Like, looking at items, I just love that. I guess it wasn't a one-off because of the poke coming out. Meteor is bringing the essence of SOFM in the league. You know, we miss SOFM.
We do.
The Warmogs on everything was always great, but Meteor, once again, sticking with
Double Kindle Gem. Why? Because cooldown. I do believe the LCS played that last night. I think I saw some Malden tweets. Flash used there by Jin Zhao to make sure he doesn't get caught, but it is Haichao who has to take the brunt of that damage. Now you can see the curtain call coming in. Xiaoshu tanking all of those remaining shots. Now Haichao, without a TP, means he can't really be a part of this fight. Your health bar is such an important resource to you in these games. Pout does steal away the Glacial Prison. Bot lane pushing in favor, or excuse me, top lane pushing in favor of LGD. And with the poke coming out from the Varus, they may have enough time here to try and get this Akali back.
And I mean, a lot of key tools from NIP have already been blown. You're hoping for those long-range tools to guarantee you a pick that leads into a winning fight, but Xiaoshu, he's wrapping around. They know he's there, though.
Yeah, Pout down to about a third of his HP. I don't know if you can go for this fight. Yes, you've got good healing here as the Silas, but he's going to have to go back and maybe TP back in. He knows he doesn't have time because this Dragon has been taken so low so quickly, with Haichao just doing exactly what he did in game number 1, being a nuisance, pushing himself forward. XLB tries to go forward, immediately has to flash away. And the Dragon is secured. That is Ocean Soul point now for LGD, and they're in a better spot they were in than game number 1.
LGD, I mean, they've been in full control this whole time. It hasn't translated into like a massive gold lead or a tremendous kill, disparity being in their favor or anything, but very clearly controlling the map this whole time, signaled by those 3 dragons, and they've been fine just playing out with this 1-3-1. Meteor hasn't felt too pressured to look for plays after how well he set up his laners in the early game, and all the onus is now on NIP to find picks like we were talking about. Both compositions, I think, should fare decently well in like 5v5s. Again, it comes on like setup, the vision that's already there, what angles you're coming through. But one area that is indexed more heavily in NIP's favor is long-range pick, curtain call, Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Pout can steal away the Glacial Prison from Meteor.
Barrage.
Yeah, Cannon. It's just so many different tools. We need to see them utilize those to catch off a stray member of LGD and that lead into a fight. The fact that so many tools got burned in that last fight and turned into nothing is what signals like, okay, NIP shouldn't really be able to do anything in this position anymore.
Absolutely, and I think, you could see as well, just going with a slightly easier to execute composition from LGD. I feel like your engage options are far more straightforward. You've got Xiaoshu and Meteor running forward, the Chain of Corruption maybe to follow up, or even to try and start off a pick. Haichao gets onto the backside, use long range from the Heimerdinger and the Varus to, again, be a nuisance. But these little things are coming in. I will say the 10 stacks, or the 10th stack of the Rod of Ages should be coming in now any second here for Pout, as everything misses in that mid lane. Look, you got to try it all. Nothing really ventured, nothing really gained. But now we will see another level lead coming in. So this could be a 2-level lead, you would imagine, here for Pout over Haichao. And that's where this game gets a little bit worse, because a level 16 Silas can just take over a game, just having multiple resets on his ultimate, on his hijack to steal all these fantastic ultimates can be a difference maker.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at him taking away Meteors especially. Even LPCs will be solid. A lot of, like I'd say everyone's ultimate on the side of LGD's side is, like, fine to good to tank, but those are really the key ones to be able to start off those fights, and I think just index more heavily into what your composition already does. Does take away Haichao's ultimate for now, so we'll be able to keep up that pressure in the 1v1. As we pivot to items, no real key neutral objectives are up, but still getting closer to break points as it looks like Xiaolongbao. as I pause
Well,
because another arrow Sheen turns into nothing.
yeah. Shalamar's on a ward, and they know he's on a ward, so they're going to TP in immediately. It's going to be answered straight away by Pout as they try and get the Cyclone used by XLB to keep himself alive, but so much CC means he's got nothing to do. They are fighting in the Cannon Barrage because they do not care right now, Lyric. They do not give a damn about what you do. There's not even an objective to really go for right now. You could maybe look for the Baron, but this is on the bot side of the map.
LGD just feeling confident. Their vision has given them so much information this game. We've seen so many times like a stray member of NIP standing on a ward, which allows for LGD to go with the appropriate response to any given play. Like you said, though, with no objectives up, it isn't going to be able to turn into anything tangible. Going back to items, even more so now, Pout going to get the Zhonya's in pocket. That is a huge one for being able to buy time and build space in a teamfight. Haichao going more for outright damage with that Shadow Flame coming through. And, you know, we're just going to keep tracking pace of the Radiant Virtue for Meteor. It's getting there. Not quite done yet.
Almost.
But we're almost there.
I mean, like I said, look, it hasn't, I will be honest, the Warmogs first versus Radiant hasn't really been relevant. It hasn't really made a big difference in all things, shape, or form, but
he stayed on the map for a long time. Look at those, that CS lead. Look at it. 30
CS. You know what? You're right. You gotta call me out like that sometimes because you're absolutely correct. Meteor is clearly on a much different level of jungler playing right now, and the next dragon spawning in 30 seconds. You would imagine he will need to be on point. Still no level 16 for Pout, so not quite at end game Silas levels, but plenty of healing reduction available to LGD as we now move towards this fight. Both teams really want to try and make this one work. I wonder if we did get another finished item for Xiaoshu. If a third item on the Cassante would be huge.
Xiaoshu's a player we also have to keep our eye on going into this one. Ghost is up, has the ulti online. Flash is pretty much there across the board. Haichao might be caught.
He is a little bit caught, but he's going to go back in as he's going to get hit by the hijack. They jump straight in. Chain of Corruption misses. There's the Cannon Barrage, but it's only peppering down the damage onto Jin Zhao. One more hit from an ultimate of the Jin would be enough to kill off the Akali, but it's not going to be enough. Now the poke war comes in. This is where Meteor can reset. Look at him. Look at the Warmog's coming in clutch right now. He knows he can come back into this fight, and it's all on LPC and Jin Zhao to make sure they're the ones putting out damage. Meteor back to full HP. There's going to be a TP coming in. Neither mid laner has a TP, so it's a native 4v4 for the moment. Dragon has been started, but they back themselves away. No real vision here for Xiaoshu. He needs to be very careful how he moves forward, but they're doing no damage to him. They are literally 280 carries trying to take him down, and they're barely tickling him right now.
They're not doing anything, Asheen. They can't do anything to him.
Here we go. Pout's finally back on the rift. Haichao doesn't have his ultimate available. Haichak should be there and available to him, so he's going to look to try and get it. There's a good ultimate there. Lands on top of Meteor. Chain of Corruption has already come back. Stolen. Confirmed by NIP, but now the fight can really come in. They're going to have Invincible try and tank up as much as he possibly can. The all-out to maybe get a little bit of 1v4. Look at this damage coming out right between the sticks. You get another kill. 4 kills. And it's just a lonely little Ashe. Zhou trying to see if he can get in the brush right there, but Haichao is going to take you down. Haichao is going to make sure you are not left alone. All of them go to the gray screen. It's a perfect ace. They didn't get the dragon, but they're going to get a Baron.
LGD absolutely massacring NIP in that one. You highlighted it. They're going to go straight towards the Baron. NIP, they deny the soul, but doesn't feel like it's all too relevant when LGD are going to be able to start pushing this lead forward. I mean, a Baroned up Akali, 5-1 in the side lane is going to be a menace, but straight into the replay, we already saw how much space that Xiaoshu was buying on the back end of this fight, and sadly, Gangplank Barrel not really able to turn into much a bit of damage on Meteor. But here, Xiaoshu on the backline denies Photic and Draw from being able to do anything from this fight, and he is such a nuisance. All members of NIP have to commit to following this home. Invincible has to flash over the wall. LPC is able to easily follow that. Haichao, my God, covering so much distance with the Shuriken flip and his ultimate. The amount of bursts that's there, they get taken down. Xiaoshu, in my mind, really was the hero of that fight with how much zone control and how much presence he was bringing to that backline.
I mean, it felt like a 1v4 at some points there for Xiaoshu. And I still favored him. I still thought he was going to win. And lo and behold, he did. Did have the follow-up. And like you said, Haichao just covering the distance to make sure that his top laner, his fellow solo laner, was not left alone. And now we come back into live. It's a 7,000 gold lead coming up to it now. We do see an ultimate used there. It's going to force LPC into an immediate cleanse. And that's the power of it. They need to start blocking him. Jinzhao! What the hell, man? You gotta block that stuff. You can't just let LPC get that low, but no harm, no foul. He does not fall down. And that's, again, a lot of damage being used.
Jinzhao's a grizzled veteran of the LPL. He's like, boy, you have to go through the pain and trauma that I've been through to be built up into a real degenerate that is an LPL player.
I don't know if that's how I want to be describing our players. You know, I'll go with it. Makes me feel at home. But we're having a little bit of a skirmish now into this mid lane. The two
I mean, in the best possible way, is she? In the best possible way.
Absolutely. As we come in, we see now a wave being pushed in on the bot side. Lots of damage being put in on either side, but no one really falling down just yet. There's a couple of minions now in mid lane. You got to cover multiple sides. You're being stretched, as we can see LPC just dodging out with Haichao to make sure they do not lose out on this push. And that's mid lane tier 3 taken off. So you've got yourself an inhibitor exposed. You might have another one exposed now in a second or two because you still have 45 seconds of Baron. You got no Ash Arrow for at least 30. This is going to be the base pretty much in tatters. NIP got to make a decision, but their engage is XLB and he hasn't got Flash.
No, and even looking for LPC, who doesn't have Flash himself, but has the stopwatch there to be able to manage to get away. And now with Xiaoshu joining in the group, it is putting a lot of pressure on, but Meteor getting chunked.
Yeah, now Jinzhao saying, all right, I'll tank that one, but now Xiaoshu finds Invincible. They're going in onto Pout to try to see if they can take him out. He does stop Haichao with a little bit of an abscond abduct, but you can see Xiaoshu underneath 2 towers with the ultimate, trying to see if he can take him out. He wants XLB, but he's not going to be able to find him just yet. Nexus turret number 1 does fall. Ninjas and Pajamas are still 4 men strong. These are low enough health bars, but those piercing arrows are doing just that, piercing through NIP's defense as NIP finally take down the Cassante. Nexus turret number 2 goes down. Jesus, where did the Jin go? And now the Nexus exposed. Pout goes golden. LGD will take their first 2-0 and over NIP of all teams. This was just dominating from LGD.
Great performance from LGD. 6 games. They were on a 6-game lose streak coming into this one, sitting 1-5 in the standings, and then to go against a team who, sure, NIP have had their struggles, but they just took down the team that, you know, might not be projected to be first at the end of the split, but still 5-1, sitting first in the LPL right now. LG, NIP just beat them in their last series, now going down 0-2. I liked the drafts coming out from LGD. The play overall was solid and had sparks of individuality, especially in some of the builds we saw. I'm not one to give props to coaches. I came in 2020, right? I used to be a coach. People of the League of Legends universe, coach for a few years. And I'll say this, you don't know what coaches do in the scene. For any team, you don't know how good or how bad they are, what they do. We have no idea. For LGD, I'll give them some props, though. 1874 and Chalitza. If anyone was wondering where Chalitza went, Chalitza is one of the coaches for LGD this split. Both relatively new coaches coming from being players. So them alongside with the players of LGD, I like the plans they came in to the game with. There were still a lot of mistakes, but still, I feel like the way they drafted and how they played out gave them a lot of wiggle room and breathing room to allow for some missteps in game 1. And in game 2, they were just in full control the whole time.
Yeah, it really felt like just straight up, they came in with a plan, they executed on said plan, and they didn't allow NIP to breathe. Fair enough, game 1, very close, went for the longest game of the split so far in the LPL, but game number 2, it didn't really feel that different. It felt like they said, cool, we got ourselves a high priority jungler who can engage. We got ourselves a priority bot side that can give us control around these dragons. By stacking that up and choosing when we are, you know, everyone is going to fight, that's how we win these games. And that's how they won the game. It did come down to Pout, yes, got a triple kill, got very ahead, was massive on the Sylas, but there's only so much a Sylas can do, and honestly, it's an interesting one as well when I look at Sylas, because he does end up kind of having choice paralysis almost in those situations, where it's like, there's so many ultimates that he could go for, that all of a sudden, if he chooses the wrong one in the wrong time, it just looks a little bit unfortunate, a little bit int.
You can see a lot of times he was going for the Akali ultimate to try. And I feel like theoretically you'd think Tim trying to get onto like things like Navaris, but no, a lot of times it was him just trying to match Haichao in that 1v1 or in the engage, trying to help burst him out so he can't take anyone down, but sadly not able to do so. And I mean, I'll give a lot of props to like Xiaoshu and Haichao in the mid late game. I mean, great. Xiaoshu, especially since he wasn't on, like Akali was putting out the big day, like bursting people out and getting those kills, but Xiaoshu was the one creating space and like buying opportunity. But Meteor in the early game, setting his laners up for success. We saw the Warmog's tech coming out, what he was staying on the map. Oh, he gets chunked out right before a dragon, chilling in a tribe rush, able to come right back. Doesn't have to give over any leeway to just allow for the opposing team to go for that one. And there we see it. I mean, Meteor setting it up, Haichao and Xiaoshu being the big boys on the Rift. And LPC and Jinzhou, I mean, they had a job to do and they did it. So, you know, there's always going to be focal points in like team compositions. They weren't it in these ones. They didn't have to, you know, necessarily take over games, but they still kept layering on that damage to make sure that NIP were always chunked low.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, is that, you know, they had a job, they did their job. Look, it's sometimes okay to accept that, you know, you can just kind of go for it and do your job and not be the carry. It's okay to not be the carry. It's okay to not be the star player on your team. By just doing your job, you can do so much. And that's exactly what they did here. And look, for NIP, look, at 2-5, you're now equal. This is a great win for LGD, but for NIP, this is where we start to get to the point of the season where we reevaluate where this team should be in the standings, where we reevaluate where we put them in the rankings of such in terms of teams and where who they should and should not be beating. It's a little bit more difficult for them, but dropping to LGD, it just feels rough.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, again, we're going to have to see where they do go from here. And, you know, apparently we're not even going to give an MVP. Today's just one of those days where...
No break.
You know, I haven't gotten to have one of these days where it's different stadiums.
I've had
you
so
just
many.
Jump in. I know you have.
It's a trip.
I've always been in, like, both my games are in Shanghai, and I just get to see how it goes. So I'm glad to be part of the ride, which is just like, hey, let's just go right to the next series.
Yeah, we do not stop here in the LPL. We are going straight into our second series. You know what? The fans wanted this. Start the game. Well, guess what? We're pressing the button all day, every day, and we're going to start the game. TT coming in against, I believe, I've completely forgotten who the second game is for. OMG, thank you so much.
I mean, we did just jump right in, but, you know, considering that we don't actually even have a literal analyst desk, I like this. I like that we can just be like, you know what? You know, can we talk about the teams? Sure, but we're going to talk about the teams in the game. So let's just get right into it. We just saw TT, who, in my mind, are one of the most exciting teams right now. I'm so glad they picked it up and are showing the projected form that at least I had for them coming off the latter half of their run in summer and what we saw in Demacia Cup. OMG on the opposite side, we've seen some decent things come out from OMG, like... I mean, they had like 2-0 wins over LGD and WE like a few weeks ago, but they've lost their recent 2 series. Both were close. They went to 3 games against both RA and LNG, but still not managing to close it out to where for TT just 2-0'd Weibo, you know, a few days ago. TT were the ones who stopped the IG hype train. Like, TT right now are looking like one of the teams to beat. It's going to be a tall task for OMG.
I was just thinking as well, like, you look at TT right now, they're on a 4-game win streak. They started 0-2, and the 2 teams they lost against are arguably playoff caliber teams. It was LNG, who are at top of the standings at 5-1, and it was Team WE. Then they beat IG, as you mentioned. They beat Ultra Prime, they beat LGD, they beat Weibo. They kind of took those 2 losses, then went through a little bit of a ramping up as, ooh, a bit of swag there from our stage host coming in. But again, you know, coming in today, if they can beat OMG, then they got NIP, who obviously, you know, next week, who we've obviously just seen is not looking fantastic. This is a moment here for TT to solidify themselves, and I think it's a bit of vindication for this roster as well. You look at the likes of Huanfeng, Yucal, these players have been touted up as kind of, they're great, but then, you know, they randomly decide to not just show up on the day for some bloody reason. And this is a very big moment, I would imagine, for these teams to kind of say, no, we are the real deal. We are players who can come out and play with the best.
And I love the foundation that TT has. Yucal, Yao Yao, and Beichuan. I know Beichuan, you know, gets some criticism, like he makes some mistakes. There's some problems there, but This was like the 3-man squad that set them up for success in summer of 2022. Like, Yao Yao Beitron working really well together, roaming around the map, usually with UCal and enabling him to be this carry. And it's still showing that it worked.